Hello, everyone. Welcome to another discussion of the Wheel of Time adaptation that Amazon is doing. We are talking season 2, episode 3, and I'm going to get the title right this time. What Might Be is the title of episode 3. AP Canavan is my very special guest and nemesis here today. His channel is A Critical Dragon. You will find the even discussions on his channel, the even episodes we're discussing on A Critical Dragon, link in the description, and the odd ones. How did I get the odd ones, AP?
Because let's face it, all our discussions are odd.
So, yes,
Or at
indeed.
least, at the very least, they're all uneven.
But you do have the even ones. So, but yes, we are going to be discussing episode 3 today. And I'm excited because I've been the grumpy one so far, slightly, at least for me, by my
Dr. Grumpy
modest,
Pants.
Dr. Grumpy Pants, by my modest standards. But I actually felt like I had my quibbles still with these episodes, but we're going to talk about 4 later. I did watch that as well. So 3 and 4, I thought were even better than 1 and 2. So I'm excited to talk about them. There were some interesting moments. They were certainly very fast paced, I felt.
See,
Especially
you think
3.
this is fast paced, and yet I still think they are giving us moments and times
Oh, yeah.
with the characters. I think
Yeah.
other people are going, oh, what do you mean fast paced? It's barely doing anything. And
Hmm.
it's moving between, it's jumping between threads a lot. But
Yeah.
ultimately, when you think of like this episode, and I have to admit, I'm slightly less upbeat about this episode than I was episodes 1 and 2. But in
3.
this
Okay.
episode, the big focus was Nynaeve.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like if you're thinking back of like what happened in this episode, the big thing is Nynaeve. The second big thing is Perrin and per Uno.
Oh, Uno. Yeah. He gets spiked.
I
Yeah.
did not see that coming.
Yeah.
I was
I was.
this is where book blindness just smacks you right upside the head because I'm like, oh no, he's gonna be fine.
No,
What?
right upside the head. No, right in the mouth. Yeah. Yeah. So
Um, but
was
those
pretty
those are the
grisly.
two sort of big things in this episode, and then there was more building with Rand and Selene.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk Nynaeve a little later because I agree that's the big thing and probably what the title mostly is talking about. What might be probably is most applicable to Nynaeve's thread
Mhm.
in this.
Yeah.
But let's start with Perrin and the Shianarans, including Uno up to the point of his demise. Um, and the eventual rescue. I got something right, AP. I predicted that Elias would come back and rescue. I said that, didn't I? That's been recorded somewhere or other, I think, right?
You know, a stopped clock is right twice a day, Philip. Like you're being so proud here.
Okay. It doesn't happen for me twice a day, okay? So I gotta
Although
shine when I can. Yeah.
I would like to point out everyone, he's wearing black and I'm wearing white today. Why am I
I
wearing white?
thought you were doing that
Why am I wearing white today? Be-
because you're a white cloak.
no, because I have toe.
Um,
Because I made the Alan Mandragon comment, I have lost honor. I am wearing white to atone.
Okay. Fair enough. I thought you were setting me up as the villain and you as the hero here, but you know.
Well, everyone already knows you're the villain. That's fine.
Right. So anyway, what did you think of this whole? We'll begin with the episode with the mouthpiece speaking for
Sorry, I
the.
thought you were making a pun about mouthpiece and Uno.
Oh
It
no.
was going to be hard to swallow.
If I'm
I'm
getting
going
all
to have to
choked
wear
up.
white for all of these videos now, aren't I?
Yeah, I'm getting all choked up now, AP. So you started it. You started it, right? Anyway, what did you think of the scene where they're basically saying, all right, everybody, step in line. You're gonna swear your oaths now. And you had the Uno's last scene. Yeah.
No, I will have to say, many, many years ago, I remember seeing an interview that had been reported that Robert Jordan had given, that the Seanchan spoke with kind of a southern Texas drawl.
Interesting.
And I remember saying at the time, well, that is absolutely ridiculous. That would never work in a fantasy world. That is just dumb. How could any Oh, so that's how it works. That's actually incredible. That's really good.
I thought it was
Because
cool. Yeah.
because it wasn't just the accent, it was the different intonation and stresses that she made it
It was
sound
a
alien.
really good delivery. Yeah, there was a sort of a indifference and alien sort of quality to it that really was quite creepy. It worked really well. Yeah.
And and I have to admit, I heard that and went, I never thought it was possible
Huh.
to have done the like a sort of an American Southern drawl
Because
thing.
everybody else in the show is speaking with a British accent, right? More or less English.
Sure, sure, let's call it
Okay,
that.
okay. They're at least attempting to, and some of them actually are.
Yeah, some of them are still crossing the Atlantic. Some of them have moved around the British Isles a wee bit in where they want to be.
Right.
But yes, let's just localize it kind of in the general direction.
Yeah.
So it's the Seanchan accent stood out, and I thought it was exceptional. And I take it back. Robert Jordan was exactly right.
Huh.
If that's how he thought it was going to sound, that is brilliant.
It
And I
worked.
thought it was exceptionally well done. And I was very impressed with that.
Cool. And the gruesomeness of that scene worked pretty well too. And of course, you also have Ishmael kind of standing there, seeming like he's pulling some strings, maybe.
Right. So let me give you a couple of thoughts about like the whole sequence. First of all,
Okay.
the man coming out and picking out random women from the crowd, and of course, no one knows why.
We know
And
why. Yeah.
and we think it's because they may have an ability to channel or an affinity to channel, which obviously they can sense. So that's what they're looking for, and they're dragging these women out. But that's not explained, and so you get the sense that it's random, that she's just picking people, and it's like the Salem witch trials. I saw Goody Good with the devil just randomly pointing at people and them being dragged away. So you can feel this building of suspense and terror, and these people are alien and frightening, and the costuming for them is just setting them apart from anything else in the show. It really does set them apart and
Covering part of
make
their
them stand out.
faces too, right? I mean that's part of the effectiveness, I think, of the whole presentation. Yeah.
They are inhuman looking.
Mhm.
And then you have Ishmael sitting there wearing his almost like very, very modern business suit style with the little
Like a tie
thing,
almost. Yeah.
this sort of cravat thing. And you look at him and that's the sort of thing that some ultra trendy person would wear to a high part business meeting today, because they go, oh, it's a special custom made shirt with a tie pin thing. And he's sitting there and you go, it should look absolutely incongruous. It should look ridiculous, but it works because he's sitting there and going, no, I'm not part of them, but I'm in this position of authority. And it sets, again, it keeps setting him apart. He's become the major antagonist for everything that we're seeing in him, and he's sitting there. And of course we see her really creepy, exceptionally long fingernails, which yeah, but that was something that you pointed out in the Dark Friends in the prologue of episode 1, that we saw that. Right. So all of this is being tied together, and it suddenly makes you think, is the Lady Saroth the Dark Friend? Because that's what we're anticipating because of the long fingernails, and we saw that under the table from the little girl's point of view. Or are all the Seanchan in league with the Dark One? That they're brutal, they are alien, they are strange, they are all of these things. And this is up in the air at this point because we don't know. And I think it's been presented really well that they are clearly antagonists, but they're not necessarily the big enemy that, we've been talking about, the Dark One, and this is Rand's destiny. Right. That there are factions and factions and factions, and we see how complicated this world is slowly becoming. And this was the same with the books, that yes, Eye of the World certainly wore its Lord of the Rings influences on its sleeve. And then in this, we start seeing the references to basically King Arthur Pendragon. Like, we get that, and it's been dropped in, and they're not disguising it, they're not hiding it. It is part of this world. That Jordan took that influence and started to build on it and build it out in a very different way.
Yeah.
And that's exciting to see in the series.
I don't want to say too much about it, but there's a moment in the scene that I don't want to say too much because I have some book knowledge, I guess you could say, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read the books. But I did think it was interesting how that scene played out, where you have seemingly just one of the Seanchan soldiers stepping out and saying, "This one," and pointing at Uno. That was interesting, right? That was not a choice and that soldier had been standing behind Uno and heard his muttering and everything and seemed to have realized, okay, this is the ornery one here. We need to make an example right now.
By the way, Philip, did you notice which one of the Shannara said that our lives aren't, or our honor isn't worth our lives, and suggested that they all kneel to a new master?
I did notice that as well. Yes.
Just random. Just wondering if you noticed.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was because of book knowledge.
Right.
When Uno got picked out, I was like, oh, how are they going to write themselves out of this one? And then there was that wonderful scuffle, and then he just throws them off and struts forward. And it was such a brilliant physical portrayal. And I'm sitting there going, where is this going? Where is it?
Not going well.
Didn't see that coming. And I should have been annoyed, like going, oh, how could you do that to this character? Because everyone loves Uno. He's great.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's the big rule about adaptation that it's not the same thing. And and this happened when we were watching Rings of Power. It happens anytime we watch an adaptation. Sometimes our book knowledge blinds us to what is blatant on the screen.
Yeah.
And that surprise was actually wonderful. And it makes me more excited about the rest of the show, because if they could do that to Uno, there are a lot of characters now suddenly that I thought would have been perfectly safe are now in jeopardy. It adds a level of jeopardy to every scene now that wasn't there before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm actually while I am shocked and disappointed, because Uno is fun and the actor playing him did a great job, and I like the banter that Uno always brings, and he's in other storylines.
Yeah.
It'll be a shame not to see him anymore, but at the same time, I am now excited about what this means in terms of other characters not being safe.
Yeah, totally. Well, just to finish out this storyline, you also have Perrin being transported by the Seanchan in a carriage by himself, chained up, and he wakes up in there and sees, guess who, kind of ready for a little chit chat. Ishmael is in there, and he's taking an interest in this young fellow. What did you think of the exchange there and the subsequent rescue by Elias and the wolves?
I have to say two things immediately about when Ishmael is sitting there. One is, I want to know where he gets his clothes done, because they are always immaculate. And clearly he shared that secret with the White Cloaks, because in season 1 they couldn't get grass stains anywhere. Like, the White Cloaks were always perfect. It must be a connection to the Dark One. But the other thing was, when he slides across the bench to sit opposite Perrin, it is such a graceful motion. It was almost like he was sitting on rollers and it just rolled across. It wasn't someone just shuffling up. It was he slid. And this is something I've noticed about sometimes, where the movement that they get the actors to do is almost unnatural, or is telling you something. And I looked at that moment and just went, that's almost supernatural, the way that he just sort of slides without, like, the top half moving. It was so well done.
A serpent, and then
he comes across as so caring, so gentle, so understanding.
Right.
The seductive nature of a lot of evil, that, no, like, people called me a monster, but you have a monster inside you. Let me see them. And it's creepy. Like, it is. That actor has done an amazing job.
He's done very well.
Portraying that sort of seductive devil routine, and I really quite like that.
I wonder if his clothes, the choice of his clothes, is the fact that he is so ancient a being, and that is it a reflection of, we did see this in the first season, so I don't think this is any kind of spoiler. This is a world that goes way back thousands of years, and Ishmael is a creature of a much older time and much more advanced time. And so is Ishmael's attire a reflection of that older, more advanced time, perhaps? Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, well, that's what it appears to be. And it always marks him out as being different. And again, I like when shows use the costuming to tell you something about character. And he is so neat, so controlled, so tidy that, you know, everything about him is that kind of creepy perfectionist.
Yeah.
But when we get that breakout scene, there was a like Elias comes swinging in like a buccaneer, like a pirate on a pirate ship. It's fantastic. Yeah. And then as you're looking at him, you realize his mouth is covered in blood. And then as soon as they get outside, you see the body that the throat has been ripped out of, and you're like, I think I've worked out how that happened.
Yeah.
And again, he is. I know a couple of people must be a bit disappointed that Perrin was replaced, but Elias is such a vibrant presence, and it has kickstarted the whole Wolf Brother storyline.
They needed to condense. They needed
which to it needed to get going, because you know there are parts of that in Eye of the World, and it needed to start accelerating to try and get up to speed. Right. But now we have our exposition machine in that Elias is going to tell Perrin about it, and we as viewer get to follow along with that. So the whole follow him, and I looked at that wolf and I went, I think I know which wolf that is.
Yeah. And we do find out later. It's in episode 4 though.
It's in episode 4 we find out.
We'll talk about that. No,
just so everyone is clear, yes, I was right, and that's very important to note. But I knew it in episode 3.
So good. Yeah. I think are we then done with that thread? I think so. Anything else on that? Shall we move on?
Okay. Yeah, we can move on.
Let's move on to Rand.
I meant to note down somewhere about my pet peeves for the episode, because there were a couple. This wasn't a pet peeve. It's a weird, as much as I praise the costuming, because I think the costuming is awesome. The weird dummies, the pacifiers that are in the mouth of the demand, I'm not 100% sold on those all the time. Yeah. Maybe they'll grow on me. Maybe.
Well, I hope they don't grow on you. That would be awful. You wouldn't be able to talk very well.
It's just they don't quite. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because they're too bulbous.
I mean, you used the word pacifier, and you actually ruined it for me right there.
But if they were, I don't know if maybe I just need to get used to them, because again, anytime something is described in a book, and when you try to visualize it yourself, quite often we actually don't visualize what's described at all, but we create an image in our minds. And what I had in my head was nothing like that at all. And yeah, this is one of those difficulties of trying to wrap your head around someone else's vision. And you don't have to like every single change. And this would be one decision that I'll come down on and say, I'm not 100% sold on it. But like, who knows how it's going to develop? I don't. But that would be the one tiny thing basically about that whole sequence that I was a little irritated by. But again, we saw the movements the demand make to weave, and again, it's that very, very crisp military, sharp mechanical focus, which is the antithesis of the Aes Sedai doing their sensuous, slow.
They're kind of more like disco dancing. Yeah.
They're all doing their Tai Chi, and the Seanchan.
Tai Chi. Yeah. Exactly.
They're just doing the robot. So.
I just one last notable thing, I think, is that Ishmael actually allows Perrin to escape, because he seems to want the wolf to come out, right? That's kind of he's banking on Perrin succumbing to his inner wolf. And he says, and he has such confidence. He's like, yeah, I can let you go, do whatever you want. I'll come back when I want you, and I'll get you, you know.
And we know that he's been invading their dreams, and
Yeah.
he's always going to be keeping tabs on them. So yeah, go on, let the person go off and gain more power and training, so then you can corrupt them, and then they're useful.
Yeah.
And recruit them, at a higher stage of their career.
I suppose. So speaking of careers, we have Rand, who is trying to get some help here from Logain, and there is the whole Logain kind of just seeing right through the entire facade and saying, yeah, I remember you when they had me in that cage and you were standing up on that balcony and I saw your little aura or big aura.
And there is the second thing in this episode that I had a quibble with.
Aha, well, do tell. Yeah.
So if you recall back when we were discussing season 1, and Matt and Rand are watching Logain, and it did a very odd camera movement, and it was Logain pressed up laughing, and then the next shot he was actually sitting back and hadn't moved. And at the time, I believe I said, I'm really impressed with this because this is obviously in their mind, that he hasn't moved, he hasn't laughed, that Rand or Matt, whoever it is, the point of view that we were with, is imagining this. It's a trick. It's in their head. We're getting inside their psychology. And I went, that's great. And then here it's no, I was laughing. And I went, but that.
Oh well.
I. At the end of the day, is it a big deal? No, but. No. I liked my interpretation from last season.
And it's gone now. Sorry. I do feel bad for that. But yeah, I thought that the tension between Logain, I thought the actor, by the way, who's playing Logain was doing a great job projecting that grief and madness and desperation all wrapped up because, of course, he's been cut off from channeling, and I feel like he's even conveying beneath all that a little bit of empathy for Rand at the same time. Like he knows what Rand is going through, and so it's a very interesting relationship that's being set up here. I liked it,
and I think you're right. It's complex. He's not just going, "I know who you are," and in badly written shows, people are one note. And they are, you have that power. I recognize that power. Do this thing for me, and I will teach you. And and that's it. This is far more complex because there are conflicting emotions. He recognizes Rand and Rand's power. He mourns his own loss of power. He is depressed and angry, and he's worried and stressed, and he's isolated, and he wants someone to talk to. It's so complex. Everything that's packed into it. And again, like a lot of the acting has been really, really wonderful to convey a lot of this. Yeah. Is he mad? Is he sane? Well, yes, he is both. That he conveys moments of clarity as well as moments of insanity, moments of anger and moments of depression. It's all wrapped up in the performance, and that is good. And so the writing being given to an actor and the actor bringing that writing to life, to bring it alive on screen for us, to give us that complexity. That's the kind of stuff that I like. And I wonder, maybe, are they setting Logain up potentially to replace Asmodean?
Interesting thought.
Because, no, I'm not going to go into book spoilers, but
right.
The way that it's kind of being set up
in terms of the mentoring, of course there are certain things that he couldn't possibly replace in that particular character.
But can you see where I'm going with it? He seems to fit with this sort of point in the story and have the certain skill set, and Rand would be receptive to it.
Interesting. Yeah. Also interesting how he jerks him around, right? He says, "Oh, okay, bring me some of this Gildanan wine,"
But it's all, I want a bottle of wine, but I want this type of wine. It's really, really fancy.
Right.
And so Rand has to go off on a fetch quest.
Right.
Which is a lot of fun. And again, it gives characters something to do. But it was the excuse for Rand to wear the red coat. I am fairly sure I recognize that from one of the Wheel of Time covers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. That's I saw that and I thought of the covers. Probably for the last book. It's definitely on the last book, I think. Right?
I don't. But my books are still somewhere in the ocean.
Oh no.
Because,
Not in the
apparently,
ocean, on the ocean, we hope.
I'm
Yeah.
somewhere on the ocean because apparently hurricanes delay things when they're floating across from the UK.
Oh, yeah.
So
So
I'm still Son's books.
very much hoping not in the ocean then. Yes. Yes.
Hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then that whole seeing the how the better half live and the contrast that has
And the
to
politicking.
it, that was actually quite good. It almost reminded me of a lot of the costuming they did for Les Liaisons Dangereuses and then the adaptation Dangerous Liaisons. That over the top, aristocratic, overly sumptuous. And then, of course, this focus on a lot of the letter writing. I'm getting more and more of a Dangerous Liaisons vibe from a lot of this stuff as soon as we get into letter writing and nobles and passing each other notes.
And decadence. Yeah.
And that came across very much in that scene. So I'll have to look up to see whether or not the costume designer ever spoke about that as an influence.
Yeah. Interesting too that we meet a member of the Damodred family at this feast, although that's not quite maybe clear until the next episode what her relationship is, so we don't have to talk about it yet. But
yeah, that I didn't realize that's who that was until episode 4.
I didn't.
So maybe you were ahead of me there.
No, I wasn't. I didn't realize until episode 4 either. So yeah, can't claim one up on you there, unfortunately. Yeah.
But I love the dynamic between Rand and Selene. Like that is so wonderful. The slightly older lady who is damaged, and like Rand is so shocked at how the nobles don't care about the common people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Selene isn't. So Selene's like, yeah, what did you expect? Selene has known this from the very beginning. She's like, oh, of course they go and do this. And charge them all double once they start buying. That was the other thing that bugged me about this. Charge them all double when they're buying rounds for their mates. And I'm like, again, slightly too modern for me, calling someone their mate.
Yeah.
Because I think in fantasy world, if you're going to call someone a mate, it's like the first mate on a ship. Again, it's something that is very common in the UK. It's slang in the UK. So it sticks out as modern. And again, it's not a problem with the writing. It's a problem with how I'm fitting it in, how I'm interpreting it.
Right.
Because I have a certain register that obviously I want things to be in. And this was slightly too modern for me. Other people can find it fine.
And I think they also up the creepiness of the Selene Rand relationship here a wee bit, where she comes back and she's mad because he left her at that feast and says, don't you ever, blah blah blah, and then they have their kind of
but I'm convinced that's a dream.
Oh, that moment. Okay, so when afterwards when they have sex and Rand's channeling goes wee and you see all that, you think that's a dream. I explain something in episode 4.
Okay, so in the sequence,
I can't talk about it exactly here, but we'll talk about it on your channel, where I felt like there was a contradiction there.
In the sequence, and again, I think this is something that I was kind of unhappy with. I understand it, but so Rand gets the bottle of wine and he's wearing the red coat and he's in the party, and then he leaves. Right. And then we see him rushing in out of breath with the bottle of wine to Logain, except he's now wearing the blue coat.
Right, he's changed.
So clearly, because we know this is the thing, that when he gets to there, he has to take off his clothes and then put on the clothes for being a person who works in the sanitarium.
Right.
And sort of that's kind of implied. But he rushes out of the party, rushes in a different costume, and it's all trying to be implied. And I go, it probably would have worked better if he'd come in the coat, because then when he leaves there and we go to this sequence, he's in the red coat again.
Yeah.
So now, because we've done he must have changed in the thing, we're now thinking that he has changed again. But when you have that sequence and it looks like he's starting to channel, he then wakes up, looks up, and starts channeling, and the roof goes on fire. So I'm I'm
Well, that's
actually thinking.
after they make love and he's doing
So
some channeling
I'm thinking that
later.
when
Okay.
he came home, he went
Yeah.
to bed on his own, fell asleep, and had a dream that he was wearing the coat, and she was angry with him and called him, "Oh, my
Oh, I
lord."
see your point. Yeah.
So
Good.
that sexy times bit was all dreams,
Okay.
and he
That would
was
make
suffering
sense
from.
given something that happens in episode 4, a certain reaction that she has in episode 4. Um,
And I'm
interesting.
thinking in terms of nocturnal emissions, that's one that's harder to explain than normal for most teenage boys.
My goodness. That's the channeling version of all that, I guess. There was a lot of and I think you're probably right, given the coat switching, not code switching, but coat switching. That's that you very keen-eyed. I like that. There's a lot of relying on dreams in this particular episode then, because a lot of what happens with the Nynaeve thread is all about dream world and so on and so forth. And that's a big part of the books, actually. The whole, I can never remember how to say it, but Tel Aron Riod or something. I'm
Yeah,
totally
I'll go with your pronunciation.
I'm totally mangling that right now, and the book people are going like but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's a whole. I mean, dream worlds are extremely important. In fact, we've seen relatively, if I remember correctly, it's something they haven't emphasized a ton yet in the show. But if you're right, and with everything that happens with Nynaeve, I feel like okay, now we're getting into that a little bit more and more.
Possibly. But even then, at the end of the day, if it was a dream or it wasn't a dream, the sequence is still understandable. You still basically get it, and it doesn't really matter a huge amount. It still, you still end up in the same place.
And if it is a dream too, it also emphasizes Rand feeling out of control. And
Yeah.
yeah.
But anything more about Rand and Selene you want to talk about in this episode?
I don't think
Apart from
so.
the fact that Selene, the actor playing Selene, is brilliant.
There's a few great. Actually, I still say that the actor playing Liandrin is absolutely stunning, doing a fantastic job. And I guess speaking of that, we can probably move on to the Nynaeve thread, unless you have anything else.
Well, Matt and Min, because that's quite short.
Okay, we'll do Matt and Min first, and then Nynaeve. Yeah,
And then we'll finish on Nynaeve, because that's sort of the most, I think, the most important aspect of this episode was Nynaeve.
Agreed.
But with Matt and Min, we are now going to get to another tiny pet peeve.
Okay, very good.
So when Matt leaves and he comes back in later and he takes the wardrobe away, Min at no point has ever covered over her side of this giant hole in the wall in her cell.
Oh, yeah.
And I was watching that going, like, this is ridiculous. This is so bad. That why is the, and then of course it gets revealed that she's working for Liandrin. And I went, oh, well, maybe that was deliberately done and I should have spotted that a lot earlier.
But then why wouldn't Matt wonder, gee, how come Min never covers up her side? Right?
And that was a little tiny thing.
Yeah.
But Matt, in the exchange with Liandrin, when she is letting him out, says, you have been talking to me and asking me these questions for 5 months.
Uh-oh.
What was the big point that I made about how clever it was that Matt said 6 months, because that takes account of the additional time when the group went to the Eye of the World.
I have an elegant
took them
solution.
to travel back.
I have an elegant solution, AP. She didn't talk to him for the first month.
That better be the reason for it.
He said, you've been talking to me for
I heard him say 5 months, and I went,
oops.
Right, because now it could be that, oh yeah, she didn't talk to him for a month, yeah, whatever. But he was in prison for a month. She didn't talk to him, and I'm going, either correct the 6th month reference to a 5 month and just keep it all 5 months,
yeah,
or correct the second 5 months reference to a 6 months. And it's one of those. It is these tiniest of details, and I'm just going,
I missed it, honestly. Yeah.
I probably would have missed it if I hadn't sort of picked up on the 6 month thing and gone, oh, that's really clever, and thought of a reason for it.
Yeah. Oh well. But yeah, I continue to enjoy the dynamic between them, but having Min being it looks like kind of forcibly, to some degree, like she's not entirely happy about this position she's in, but apparently this whole thing was planned. Like they wanted Matt to meet Min, and they want Min to take Matt somewhere, and Liandrin is looking more and more like a kind of a bit of a, she's got bigger and bigger plans, right? That are lurking in the background. So yeah.
And again, I had said Min's answer about how she got there was suspicious.
Yeah.
At least I was proven right on that one.
You were indeed. Yes. So Min was not being forthright with Matt. Surprise. Yeah.
And I would have to agree with you. I think Min is being forced. We could almost like use the expression blackmailed. She is being pressured to do this.
Right.
That this is not, she is happily going along with this, because when we saw that moment, Liandrin grabs her forcibly by the arm.
Right.
And you see that
threat. She's gone back for, she grabs a piece of bread or whatever.
Yeah, she went back for a bit of bread, but it's, Min had been backing away. She looked uncomfortable all the way through the exchange. And then Liandrin grabs her. It's like, and you could see the fear and apprehension and stress.
Yeah.
And so that makes me feel a lot better. Min is not doing this of her own free will and happily going along with it. This is much more
bad about it. Yeah.
Liandrin has something on her or has promised her something, which, to be honest, now that we've seen episode 4, we now know that she's been promised something.
Yeah.
But in that moment, you knew that this wasn't a normal, oh yeah, this is what Min wants to do with her life. It's like, no, Min has been forced into this.
And Matt,
but I still really love the banter between Min and Matt. Like they bounce off each other really well.
That's great. Yeah. And Matt is still acting the coward. There was a kind of, I thought, well done scene between Liandrin and Matt where she kind of just, I mean, very cruelly shoves his face in all of his shortcomings. So
she demolishes his self-defense about what he did,
his facade,
because he has been trying to convince himself. He knows that he left his friends, but he's been trying to tell himself that he didn't, that he would never do that.
Right.
And Liandrin just absolutely demolishes that and says, no, you left them. They didn't leave you. You left them. I could see right through you. And he has to confront that thing that he did. Well, his alter ego did in season 1.
Yeah, the other actor. Wait, I didn't do it. It was the other actor, right?
It was the other Matt. It wasn't me at all.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, I think that you're right, but Liandrin is doing so in a way that seems cruel to me, and and she has been withholding information from him as well to manipulate him. We saw that previously.
Even until the very end, she's still not telling him the whole truth. Like,
right.
She is cruel to him. And
she's manipulating these young people. She's saying, "Oh, by the way, Gwen is here. You know, if you want to help her out." And then she's dropping all these little things, telling them this and that, with the intention of manipulating them.
Yeah. So. And ultimately, this leads, I think, to my last pet peeve for the episode. And I know I've been slightly more negative than normal. It is the cliche in film where someone is looking at someone else and, I don't know that there's someone looking at me. And then as soon as they move away, as soon as they leave, I hate this. I loathe this. This is one of, and it's not the writing's
You
fault.
mean when Matt is staring at a Gwen and she's sitting there in mourning?
Oh, I'm crying.
He's too cowardly to actually approach her, and then he leaves, and then she turns around and like,
was someone there? You're like, it happens in so many films and in so many TV shows, and I'm like, please, for the love of all that is holy, don't ever do this again, ever. But that is one of those ones that I know is deeply personal to me. For whatever reason, that one just rubs me. I'm like, he's gonna stand. I saw him standing in the doorway. I went, he's gonna leave, and then she's gonna look up.
Yeah.
I
think it's an attempt at a little bit of cosmic irony, perhaps. But yeah, anyway.
But that one, honestly, yeah. I had to roll my eyes. But, it's a TV show.
Yeah, they do these things. But there were some brilliant aspects to this particular thread. We'll call it the Nynaeve thread because I think she's the dominant character here. Many of them, in my opinion, related to Liandrin and her. Like, I loved her reaction when the three Aes Sedai are convinced that Nynaeve is gone, that she's dead. And the one leaves, and then the Mistress of Novices, Sheriam,
Sheriam.
scolds her with I thought some really great dialogue and says, I hope you feel horrible about this. By the way, I do too. I know I'm not going to be able to live without this on my conscience. I thought that was a great little moment. And I love what Liandrin does afterwards, which is, I feel like there's an array of emotions on her face in that moment. And she conveys them all. Like, there's rage, there's frustration, and I think there's genuine grief in there as well. Like, I thought there was actually, like, she was sad too, and which is weird because I still feel like she's manipulating these young people for darker mean ends. But I feel like there's also what's being conveyed there is like, yeah, I think she actually kind of cares about Nynaeve too.
And if you're like, she's the one who goes up to do the funeral ceremony with the ring.
Yeah, she didn't have to do that.
And again, complexity of emotion. It's not a one-note villain. It's not a cackling villain. It's not just here is the plot function. It's fully rounded, complex characters. The thing that we always say that we want. And the problem is when you have that, it's not neat. It's not tidy. There's chaos to it because we have conflicting emotions.
But to convey all that on her face in that moment, I was like, wow, that's really great acting right there.
And then when she smashes the
yeah.
But I have to admit that the water vase thing was hilarious when Nynaeve first came out of the very first one. And she just dumps the water on her. I had to laugh.
Yeah, because it seems like she was being hazed.
It was all wrapped up in this religious ceremonial function, like you have been washed clean of your sins kind of thing. Like you get that. So you imagine it's kind of meant to be this, the way that we imagine baptisms, there's a little gentle symbolic water. And she's like, nah, just dumps water all over. She's like, what? Right.
So she makes it through the first two arches. And we got to talk about what happens there because they are very, I think, cleverly interlinked. What they do, what happens, the vision she has of her parents in the first arch, for example. So yeah, what do you have to say about that?
But before we talk about the arches, I think that's what we want to finish on. Really, when Egwene confronts Liandrin, and she weaves fire. She weaves fire with her arms down by her side. She doesn't use the gestures. And remember when Alana was trying to teach them the weave for the water, and she said, you have two hands. And she's like, no, I'm trying to learn how to weave without my hands. And of course, this all goes back to season 1 when she saw the White Cloaks cut off Aes Sedai hands so they couldn't weave. She had her hands bound.
Right.
We see all of these connections. And now she's standing there and she just big, obviously not a fireball because she's not Professor Fireballs, but
right. I mean, there's only one Professor Fireballs. Yes.
But she weaves fire, and it's not just a little tiny thing that we saw in season 1.
Right.
That's a big wall of flame. And no, Liandrin's not too fussed about it.
Too phased. No. Yeah.
But at the same time, that's a novice.
Yeah.
Who hasn't used her hands and did that. And you go, when she says that, you don't know what I'm capable of. Right. I think Liandrin in that moment goes, maybe I don't.
I don't know if Liandrin saw that she wasn't gesturing. Because did she have her back turned to her?
She had her back to her. So maybe she didn't see that. But I think that strength of character, standing up, like, admittedly, in her rage, in her grief, and in her anger, but challenging an Aes Sedai, and not just any Aes Sedai, a Red. And the Reds have such a terrible reputation.
Especially Liandrin. Yeah.
So I thought that was a very powerful moment, and it was a lot of the battle of wills between the two of them, and it promises a lot. So I thought that was a really good moment to note because it showed the development of Egwene. It connects it to stuff from season one. It gives a rationale for why she wants to train to weave without using her hands like all the other Aes Sedai. They all use their hands.
Right.
So I thought that was actually an important point in that exchange. So why don't you tell me what you thought of the sequence in the arches? Because it's past, present, and future. That's what we're looking at in the three arches.
Wait, are you talking about Ebenezer Scrooge now?
And the rule of three, and there are lots of other things that are evoked here.
I mean, no. I thought it was a very good sequence. It was a sequence that was very much trying to build up the character of Nynaeve and how much she, in spite of how irascible she is, how much she cares for people. And that seems to be the nature of the test is, are you willing to leave behind the people you love in order to be part of this organization, be part of the tower, the White Tower. I thought it was cool how they made these parallel, like what happens to her in the first one. Later, you get a very strong echo of that in the third. And I thought it was really cool how in the case of the third, she goes in there and there's this really kind of like very chaotic, very difficult to tell what happens. Kind of, she's screaming and she's wearing red, like she's in the red Aja. Like her worst nightmare is to be a red, maybe. And she comes out with blood all over. She sees visions of Lan while she's in that particular moment.
And here's his voice.
And here's his voice.
So she's a red.
Yeah.
But is hearing Lan's voice talk about basically how much he loves her.
Yeah. And comes out all bloody. It's like, what did I do? Tell me what I did. She wants to know. And they're like, oh yeah, you passed. Here's your ring. And she's like, screw you. I'm not doing this. I'm leaving. And then we see her, and I was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting twist they're doing there. And then she rides off and meets up with Lan. And I first thought, wait, that's just stupid. They just happen to be. And then Lan explains it. He says, oh, well, actually, Alana told me that you were being tested. I came as fast as I could. And I thought, oh, okay. And then, then they hug and all that. And there's this little echo of the twinkling behind her. And you think, oh, wait, no, this is, and then you think, all right, she's done for because she's going to stick with Lan, and she does seemingly for years. What she experiences as years in the dream world and in some alternate reality, whatever you want to call it, for the purposes of this discussion. But it was interesting, very interesting, that she does something exceptional in there, which is you're not supposed to be able to channel, and she does. When the Trollocs kill her people, she channels, and then the gate appears again. It's like, oh, I guess we do really want you. I don't know. Ta-da. And so I thought that was really cool. I was actually fooled the first time when she's riding off and everything. I thought, oh, that's cool, actually. So it's like a dream within a dream kind of thing. I thought, oh, that's that. Okay, they got me there, you know. And I thought it was well done, and it did show a lot about her character. I think her feistiness, but also her independence, her integrity, and it showed a lot about the politics in the White Tower and how even Sheriam, when she confronts Egwene and says, I'm not doing this to be cruel, but this is how it is, and her intentions are definitely kind, I think, because you realize Aes Sedai, they're going to live for a long time. They're going to see a lot of people die. So you have to have, it's like being a doctor in a way. You have to have your professional kind of, your professional mind when you're, detachment. So I think that they're trying to teach these tough love kind of lessons. But so a lot of stuff is conveyed in this sequence.
And the thing is, it's, if only when Nynaeve in the third one had learned how to play the flute. That's a Star Trek The Next Generation reference for a couple of people.
Oh, I haven't seen it. Yeah, sorry.
There's an episode, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But basically Picard learns to play it doesn't matter. Right, so anyway, what I liked
And
about
when he
this,
comes
again,
back, he still remembers how to play the flute.
yeah, he lives an entire life in essentially a dream world. And when he comes back, he actually remembers all of the skills he learned while he was there.
Cool. Huh.
There's a whole story attached to it.
Would that work if I were to go there and read a whole bunch of books and then
Yeah.
come? Nice. Okay.
Yeah. And it would have been a lot funnier if you'd actually known the reference when I tried to make the joke, Philip, but you're useless.
Sorry.
So
sorry.
We can't be friends anymore.
I mean, I'm a Trekkie only for the original series. So the real series.
Old man. So yeah, past, present, and future.
Yeah.
So in that first one, her biggest regret, the most defining moment and memory of her life was that moment. And I thought there were a couple of interesting things. One, it's the mother is the one with the bow and arrow and is the sort of the warrior. The father was the nurturing one. Nice little role reversal.
Yeah.
And that was a nice touch. But then we get to, whenever in season 1 she'd been talking to Lan about those words, we hear the father say them. And this is that memory.
Yeah.
And so it has a lot of emotional weight to it because we know how important this is to her, not just witnessing it there, but it was already foreshadowed.
Yeah.
And so having to choose between trying to save the people there or your actual destiny, the actual real world where you will have to make tough choices. Do you go for the greater good, serve the Aes Sedai and the greater sort of pattern of the will,
right,
or do you serve the people closest to you? And she chooses to be a servant of all instead of saving the people closest to her.
That moment, yeah.
Then in the now, she's back in Two Rivers and there's a plague and they need her. They need her to save them.
Yeah.
But again, do you save only a couple of people or do you be with the order? Stay with the order. Know to be an Aes Sedai and serve all people, not just the ones that you know and you care about. And she passes that test.
Yeah, even when Tam asks about Rand and she lies to him because she thinks Rand is dead. And oh yeah, he's doing great. Yeah.
He's fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
And she even tries to mimic the weave to do the healing so she could heal him. And he begs her, stay with me. And you can imagine how awful it is to turn your back on someone you love, someone you respect, someone you want to protect, someone you want in their dying moments to go, no, I have duty. And she manages to do it there. But when it comes to giving up her future with Lan.
And her child.
Yeah. Well, no, she doesn't know at that stage but she sees Lan. That is the temptation.
Yeah.
We see the gate behind her.
Yeah.
And she's like, no.
It's dimmer this time, too. That gate is dimmer this time. Yeah.
And then when Matt arrives dressed in the fancy dapper clothes, nice to see him outside of his house coat. And he's all dressed up and he delivers the note saying, oh, the Trollocs are invading. And Lan says, do you regret leaving the tower? And she doesn't answer.
Yeah.
Because she's now, this is wonderful. I have the man that I love. I have a child that I love. I'm with Matt and Perrin and my friends, but I have turned my back on the greater world. The Trollocs are invading. Egwene is off doing this and fighting them. And then the Trollocs arrive. And we see Matt loses an eye. That's an interesting choice to have reflected at this point. And Perrin with an axe through his chest. What a coincidence. And of course, Lan sheathing the sword.
Oh dear. Yeah.
But she's faced with all of these things and then makes the decision she will go back, but she still cannot bring herself to leave her daughter behind. But she knows that her daughter is not coming with her.
Yeah.
but she still cannot do it. That is still who she is. This is her
Through
daughter.
empty-handed. Yeah.
And when she comes out, not only has she lived with Lan and now lost Lan, like she realized that Lan isn't actually dead. The person who is missing is her daughter.
Yeah.
That daughter does not exist, cannot
Doesn't
exist.
exist. Yeah.
And she has lost her daughter. That is who she's mourning in that moment. And that pain in her scream is soul rending.
Yeah, yeah, and also very interesting how she brings her daughter down into the cellar the same way her father brought her down into the cellar.
Yeah,
Said, "You stay here, don't do anything," and they go up to fight the invaders. And yeah, it was powerful. I also love that they had Egwene and Elaine waiting in the room because and the whole Elaine Egwene interaction is actually growing on me a lot. I thought that was really nice how they're bonding, even when Egwene yells at Elaine, get out, you don't even know me. That was powerful and I think really good. And you see Elaine's kind of like shock, but also realization, I need to leave her alone for a moment to be with her grief. But she's there for her as well. I thought that was really cool. I like how this relationship is going.
And one of the things I liked about, again, the portrayal of Elaine, which I obviously think is a lot better than you did because you were mean about her last time we talked.
I thought she was appropriately regal. That is to say, somewhat aloof. Yeah.
But I like the fact that Elaine is consistently perceptive.
Yes. Yeah.
And she sees to the heart of matters, to the truth of matters. And
sometimes should probably keep her mouth shut, but yes. Yeah.
She's not blunt, but she's forthright. And yeah. I actually really like that about how they've categorized her or characterized her.
Yeah.
And there's a great line that she mentioned when she discovers Egwene trying to get the arches to work again. Right. And she said something like, not in 3,000 people have tried over the last whatever number of thousands of years or 3,000 tries to get a friend or lost friend or lover.
Yeah.
And you go, pillow friends are best friends. But it was nice. It was a nice reference to the fact that even the Aes Sedai, because we keep seeing this complex picture of the Aes Sedai.
And that was portrayed in the first season too, by the way.
Yeah. But even this complex picture we have of the Aes Sedai, of being aloof, of being arrogant, of being manipulative, they are also people. And, that's why I thought Shiriam, when she said, I'm not saying this out of cruelty, but basically I am going to be cruel. I'm going to tear the what do Americans call it?
Band-Aid.
Band-Aid. I'm going to tear the Band-Aid off quickly. And no, there are other ways that you could have done that. And a weird thing about that moment, Egwene knocks on the door. Nynaeve knocks on the door. Nye. Then opens it, and Shiriam goes, "Oh, Egwene, I wasn't expecting you." You're like, she just knocked and said the name twice. Like, I get the sense that she was sort of going, "Oh, hang on, that's Egwene. I'm going to pretend to be surprised when she comes in, and oh, it's you. Oh, I am so shocked. By the way, terrible thing, your friend's dead. Sucks to be you. You'll get over it. Bye." And I read that as far more cruel than you did.
No, I thought it was okay. What she believes, and I totally believe that she thinks she's doing it out of Egwene's best interest. That she has to learn to live with this kind of grief because this is going to happen again and again and again. And if you don't learn to deal with it, it will drive you insane. You have to detach. So and I think she really believes that she's doing what's best for Egwene in that moment. I disagree with that particular approach to grief myself. I don't think it's particularly helpful, but there it is. I think she actually believes she's doing the right thing for her, maybe. Yeah.
But so with that said, I think you are slightly more sympathetic to her than I am. But I think on the whole, nice. Again, although I have been a bit more nitpicky about this episode, Nynaeve and her trials and the emotion wrapped up in that, and how connected they all were, and what it spoke about the character, but also how the Aes Sedai use it as a test. all of that was so powerfully well done. The scenes with Rand and Selene were, again, absolutely wonderful to watch. This sort of dance between these two quite broken people.
Yeah.
The sequence with Perrin and the Seanchan at the very beginning was shocking and alien and disturbing and raises up a whole lot of interesting things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
And then the inclusion of Elias and the wolves at the end, with Perrin's going to escape and learn about being a wolf brother. There was an awful lot happened in this episode, and it was a good episode. It was providing momentum for a bunch of different things. And it provided emotion. It provided wonderful moments where Elaine is so supportive, and you get that sense of friendship and caring. Like it ran through a lot of different emotions through the episode, and I thought it communicated it very, very well. So yes, even though I was nitpicky, and even though it did a couple of things that irked me, but no show is ever going to please everyone all the time.
We know that. Possible. Yeah.
So I genuinely enjoyed the episode, but because of those nitpicky things, I perhaps didn't enjoy it as much as I did the previous two episodes.
Interesting. Yeah, I would say probably, and without spoiling 4 at all, I would say 3 was actually maybe my favorite episode so far.
Sacrilege 4 is definitely better.
Okay, we're going to argue about that over on your channel. So everybody's going to have to see those fireworks over at A Critical Dragon when we have that discussion on episode 4. So anything else, AP, for the good of the order?
Just to say thank you once again, Philip, that I really enjoy these chats. I like that we can talk about the show. We can talk about the things that we like about the show. We can talk about things that we don't like about the show. It's not anything other than two people having fun, talking about fantasy, talking about storytelling, the things that we have spent an awful lot of time studying and teaching and being involved in. And this is a fun way to approach it.
I agree. I have so much fun talking about this, and without any agenda whatsoever, just saying what we see there. And
that's because you're a shill.
Yeah, right. We're shills. Wait, I'm still waiting for my check from Amazon. So I don't know. Did you get yours?
Oh, sorry. You mean we actually do get paid? What is this? How much are you getting paid? I don't even have an Amazon voucher.
Uh-oh. I'm gonna have to call Bezos. Yeah.
He's on speed dial.
He's on my speed dial. Yeah. Sometimes I accidentally butt call him. I mean, he's okay with that. So with that, we will say goodbye to everybody, and thank you for watching. And once again, next discussion is going to be over at A Critical Dragon. So we will see you there. Until next time.